This is what you will typically read on the profiles of women on dating sites these days. I'm a 35-year-old female with 4 kids from 3 different dads, no career, out of shape, low intelligence, and more baggage than a transatlantic commercial passenger airline. I'm seeking a fit and attractive young man who hits the gym 8 days a week, has at least a master's or doctorate degree from an Ivy League university, is an astronaut, has his net worth of at least $1 million minimum, and no kids, never divorced, must love traveling, loves me for who I am, is not curious about my past, will spend his life dedicated to serve me, and always give me attention 28 hours a day. Sounds familiar? Yeah, that's the typical modern women's mindset you will find these days. Endless expectations, total delusion, complete narcissism, and unbelievable levels of entitlement. After 30-plus years of anti-male feminism marginalizing men, it seems women in the West have internalized misandry. As for the lonely part, I suspect that question was never asked in any survey, given the number of women on antidepressants, anxiety meds, etc. that was added as a put-down echoing the belief of men without social connections who commit heinous crimes. It's just a self-fulfilling prophecy in action. You tell a group they're worthless, the cause of all problems, that they should die alone enough, and they will do one of either 2 things. They will tell you to step off while they go focus on themselves, or they will become the very creatures you told them that they were. The third option of resetting the system through activism is just too far-fetched in this world. It's amazing how we men are still expected to adhere to our traditional roles as husbands, fathers, protectors, and breadwinners. Yet they don't demand that women adhere to their traditional roles as homemakers, faithful wives, and loving mothers. Men are expected to be traditional and women are expected to be whatever they want to be. Isn't that hypocritical? You know, the reason it's tougher for men now is simply because women stepped out of their place. The moment they began working, the workforce was doubled, which caused money to be distributed differently. Goodbye family tax. Fewer men get jobs nowadays because some woman is in there who truly doesn't want to be there. But the diversity, or whatever it's called, hiring, had to put her in over the more qualified men. Now there are some women who love their jobs and are at the top of the list and better qualified than their male counterparts. But those outliers are few and far between, and even less that are happy to be working in said job until retirement. They're their own worst enemy and they know it. They just choose to blame us for allowing them to do so. That's fair to an extent, but they need to realize their consistent nagging was annoying and we wanted peace. So truly, if they never nagged, they'd never be in this position. It's not like we didn't use our foresight and warn them like a parent warns a child of a hot stove. Eventually, you've got to let them touch the stove if they wish to be hard-headed. Now they burn their hand not once, but multiple decades worth of times. Instead of learning their lesson, they just dug deeper and caused themselves more pain. Now we're done with the obviously mentally ill crop and are moving on and allowing the infected to die out. Today, you have all these women bragging about being strong and independent and making all this money, mostly from selling their bodies, but they don't seem to be willing to spend any of it on dates. Double standard at its finest. You really can't make this up. Marriage in the West these days seems about as good an idea as me putting my hand in a blender. Divorce court is as violent as that Spartan movie 300. The thought of me being potentially separated from my own children with nothing I can do about it is quite scary. It's just unbelievable to think about the stories of guys we hear these days when they get totally wrecked by divorce courts thanks to women who go on to move in with the other guy within the next month. Men have become tired of approaching women or even just looking at women and being called a creep or a pervert. We are just doing what you asked for and leaving you alone. I think this saying applies: be careful what you ask, because you may get it. Once you rule out all the women covered in tattoos, piercings, pink hair, clown clothes, or next to no clothes at all, aggressive and combative attitudes, there are very few women left to choose from if you're looking for a relationship. The alternative is simply hooking up, which a lot of women are complaining is not enough. Men party with them and move on, which makes sense given the circumstances, or even more so nowadays, men simply don't engage because the payoff just isn't worth the hassle and the juice isn't worth the squeeze. Heck, the fruit isn't even worth touching. To be honest, if a good relationship is not good enough, and if a great relationship is just the bare minimum, then what exactly do these women want? They want the very, very best that the universe has to offer. It basically proves the most fundamental difference between men and women when it comes to dating and life in general. For instance, if a man wants a Ferrari, he knows that he will have to work his back off to get it. Women, on the other hand, will simply try to manifest it. They think that living in a normal house, owning a normal car, and having a normal partner who simply loves her and that she can trust is, at best, settling, or at worst, living in hell. This delusion that they are owed the very best that life has to offer is the reason why so many women set themselves up to fail. Actually, men prefer dating women who are less rich than they are. Others like women who have less education. Studies show that men find women's intelligence to be unattractive to a certain extent. But when he thinks a woman is brighter than him, he actually loses interest in her. However, men who regarded educated women to be attractive in the long run gave them low physical attractiveness ratings, according to evolutionary psychologists. Alright, men. I agree with him since I wouldn't want to date someone who makes more money than I do. Not out of fear, but more because I am certain that she will ultimately make a joke about how much money she makes and how she won't respect my authority. Why then would I sign up for it knowing that I will be treated like a lesser person? That arrangement would only be accepted by a man who doesn't value himself. Because I'm more likely to receive better treatment than if it were the other way around. And I may feel like a provider and a man in my own castle. I would like to date a woman who makes less money. These contemporary Western women will now consider males as inferior while physically being broke and living in rundown apartments themselves. Furthermore, you shouldn't make this a problem since these women will try and minimize your accomplishments despite the fact that barring divorce, they can never hope to catch up to you. There's very little reason to engage with women in the first place, not to mention the risks involved in literally approaching a woman nowadays. If she doesn't like you, she can not only humiliate you, but also ruin you if she so chooses. And the laws are almost completely on her side, so yeah. Why bother is essentially where we as a society are at. Men don't want the near-tragic drama from start to finish, and women seem to think men are obsolete drones anyway, and our system seems to agree. So, why bother? Much of it has to do with courts and laws that have turned interacting with females into a potential liability. Many guys I know are afraid to go on dates because if they become successful sometime in the future, they don't want to have a false allegation made against them of any kind. The problem is in the old days, the regular Chad got more dates and action than the average dude. But now the average dude can't get any dates or action, and Chad has no incentive to settle because he can get some action from different girls every night. Used to be only Jigga Chad like a sports star or a celebrity, but now any Chad can have fun. That leaves 99% of the male population without a woman and 100 rejections based on an endless list of expectations from women such as 6-packs, 6 figures, and 6 inches. If you want a stable society and a middle class, just ban dating apps and social media, lower taxes, lower regulations, incentivize companies to manufacture here with tax breaks, break up media monopolies, simplify the tax code, and give tax breaks for new businesses. Starting a new business should be easy and not burdened by endless government hoops to jump through. Eliminate the current public education model because there are too many in power that directly benefit from the middle class failing. And most importantly, and no-fault divorce, accept that men are innocent too. Stop believing men are to blame for anything by default and start creating policies that promote people to be more traditional according to their genders. Thanks for watching Man Reacts. Show us your love and support by liking this video, sharing it with your friends, and subscribing to the channel. and let us know your thoughts on this in the comments. We're always up for a healthy debate and discussion.